Hello and welcome to the AfterBurners podcast. I am your host, Samuel Oni, and this is episode 16. With me is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you today?
Yeah, not too bad, especially after a decent race, a surprisingly decent race last weekend.
In the
Yeah,
Paul-Ricard in
I
France.
know.
Yes, it
No one
was.
was expecting that.
Yeah, it was rather good. I mean, the
Well,
runoff.
it was good for Paul-Ricard. I wouldn't say it's one of the best races of the season.
Oh,
But
oh
it,
yeah,
it was it was decent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a lot. Well, yeah, there's a lot to get through,
Yeah, there
but
is.
the big talking point is let's start with the Flying Dutchman, as I like to call it. Red Bull's Max Verstappen wins the French GP. He extends his gap in the Drivers' Championship, and I mean, just absolutely great, wonderful, wonderful. Let me get your thoughts.
I mean, yeah, it was a superb drive. Well, I say superb drive, but he messed it up at the start, didn't he? Going
Yeah,
wide at turn one.
going
He could
wide.
have he
Yeah,
could have lost the race there and then quite easily. But I mean, he drove well to come back, but fair play to the Red Bull strategists because they've been outplayed a couple times by Mercedes this year in I think in Bahrain and in Spain, and yeah, Sunday rather was like Spain but reversed because Red Bull did the two stop, Mercedes did the one stop, and surprise, surprise, it worked out for Red Bull, and what an undercut to for
what it
Verstappen on
was.
Hamilton.
Yeah,
That was that cut it so fine,
yeah,
and just what a
it was
just what a
brilliant.
I know a wave of brilliance from Red Bull and an amazing outlap from Verstappen to make the undercut work.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what won the race for Verstappen and Red Bull. So well, besides the two stopper, but I mean, yeah, just what a drive from what a strategy from Red
Yeah,
Bull. Not often we've said that in recent years,
yeah.
but yeah, it was a perfect outcome for Red Bull, really.
You mentioned the key word there, strategy. F1, I believe F1 is all about two things in the sport. Time, time, because like once you lose time, you could almost it's the difference between, getting pole position, finishing in the points position. And the second thing, time and I've forgotten now.
Strategy.
Strategy, yes, sorry. Strategy. Like, are you going for a one stop? Are you going for a two stop? And I think Red Bull got it right. Red Bull got it right, especially with the tire management. Um, two stop strategy with both Verstappen and Perez, which I think was
Oh, actually, no,
absolutely fun.
Perez did the one stopper.
Oh, one
Perez did
stop.
the one. Yeah, I think Verstappen and Leclerc were the only drivers to pit twice, and Leclerc and Ferrari they had a dreadful race, but
Oh,
which we might get onto later. But
yeah.
I mean, Mercedes got it wrong, which is surprising because Bottas said he
Oh,
wanted a two stop, but
yeah.
yeah,
Did you
he
hear?
was quite
Yeah,
angry. Yeah.
he was very angry in his radio.
Oh, very is putting it politely. He was extremely pissed off with Mercedes at them keeping him out on completely destroyed tires. I mean, when we saw him try to defend against Verstappen and Perez, he just couldn't. He had no
Uh,
tires left. And to be fair, his defensive driving on Verstappen on the Mistral straight, that was just appalling because, well, first of all, he went in too deep. So
yeah.
Verstappen had a much better run. And whether that was to do with tires or driver skill, it's probably a mix of the both, to be fair. But his defensive driving, Bottas, was just not there at all for Mercedes, and he didn't manage his tires well enough to. I mean, Perez did it. Perez did it just fine, and got a double podium for Red Bull. And I mean, we know Hamilton; he's a master of time management, but not even he could keep Verstappen
Yeah.
off his tail with the two stopper. And Mercedes, did they get it wrong this weekend? Should they have gone for the two stopper? If they'd gone for the two stopper, do you think Hamilton would have won? Pose that question to you.
I think so. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So. Red Bull definitely won that battle. They won that battle. I think they had the better race strategy and all. Evaluated the circuit where they can win it, where and they just put it all together and they got it bang on right. And well, Valtteri Bottas, like I said, he was very unhappy, as you said, politely. I'm not going to say his words, but why didn't we do the two-stop strategy? Pretty much what he said. And well, yeah. Verstappen. Before we move on, Max Verstappen. This is his third win this season.
Yeah.
3 wins
in a row as well.
I think.
Three Red Bull wins in a row. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think Hamilton 3 as well. Or is it 4?
How many races have we had? I can't remember.
We've had 7.
Have we had 7? Yeah.
We've had 7, yeah.
The Red Bull's
7,
won 4, Hamilton's won 3. Verstappen's won 3 races now. Red Bull's won 3 in a row because Perez won last time in Baku.
Oh yeah. And Hamilton's on 3. Yes. Yeah. Max Verstappen. Do you think he can win it this season? I certainly do.
Well, I mean, I was going to say we're a third of the way through the season, but I mean, which I expect. I still expect the season to be a good 20 odd races long. But given obviously what's happened with Canada, and I doubt we'll be racing in Brazil this year because of COVID, and America, whether there's going to be a double header in Austin, I'm not too sure.
Australia?
Potentially, but it's right at the end of the season. They really want that sort of end of the season finale in Jeddah and then in Yas Marina, which brings us on to perhaps another talking point. If you've seen the changes to the Yas Marina circuit this year to try and improve the racing, if not, we'll talk about that next week. But I mean, if Red Bull keep going like they have done for the last 2-3 weeks, then potentially Verstappen could become the first non-Mercedes driver to win in the turbo hybrid era. I think it is still fairly early doors yet. He's leading Hamilton by how many points? Not too many. It's less than 20, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's only Verstappen is on 131.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton is on, I think, 114, I think.
Yeah. So that's still not too. I mean, he had a poor race in Monaco, which I think really shook things up because Verstappen won in Monaco. Yeah. That was if Verstappen goes on to win this year, I think we'll look back at Monaco and say that was a huge turning point.
Do you think Monaco will be the turning point?
If Verstappen goes on to win it, I think so, because Hamilton finished 7th, Verstappen won. That's a huge points difference. And I mean, we're seeing that now with Verstappen leading Hamilton 131 points to 114, 115. And it is still early doors. We've still got 14, 15, 16 races left. So there's plenty of time for Hamilton and Mercedes to get back up to speed where they've been off the pace the last few weeks. I mean, to be fair, Hamilton could have won in Baku. It was only the magic brake button that stopped him from winning that. And, well, I suppose a mistake on Hamilton's part, locking up going into turn 1. But I think the next 2 races could be fairly interesting. I think they could be close between Hamilton and Verstappen. 2 races back-to-back in Austria, where, I mean, every time we've raced in Austria since Verstappen's been in Formula 1, at turn 1, you just see the waves of orange from travelling Dutch fans over to Austria. And I think it's a track that I'm not really too sure on which it favours, because Austria is quite a short circuit. It's probably one of the shortest on the calendars in terms of lap time. With the cars going over the line in barely over a minute. So I reckon it'll be close.
The fastest lap there in Austria, Styrian, I think, was a 1:07.
Yeah, it's fairly short.
I think it was one of the 2 Mercedes drivers. and it will be interesting. Well, before we touch on McLaren, let's talk predictions. So, tell me your pole sitter for the Styrian Grand Prix.
Oh, this is tough. I just said this is going to be tough. Oh, Pole.
We'll talk predictions and then we'll preview Styria
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
yeah. So your pole sitter for the Styrian Grand Prix.
Tough. I'm going to go Verstappen. I think I've gone Hamilton the last few weeks. I think Verstappen's just on such a great run, and he can get his sixth pole position in Styria, maybe Austria as well at the same track. But it depends. I think there's supposed to be a bit of rain around for the race as well, which could spice things up a little bit. We could
I've seen the weather.
Could see an odd grid and an odd race, a jumbled up grid. I mean, wet races always make for interesting Grand Prix. But I'm going to go with Verstappen, pole sitter for the Styrian Grand Prix first up. Race winner. I think Hamilton. I think Mercedes are going to come back. I think Mercedes are going to come back in Styria. I think Verstappen's going to get pole, but Hamilton's going to win the race.
Okay.
I think that's the first time I've gone for a different pole sitter and race winner from different teams.
Right.
This year, I think anyway. I'll have to look back. Driver of the day, again, it's just a lottery, isn't it? Pierre Gasly. I'm going to go with Gasly. He's had a good season.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Gasly for driver of the day in Styria.
Okay, so if you could just clarify it again.
So pole sitter, Max Verstappen, race winner, Lewis Hamilton, driver of the day, Pierre Gasly.
Okay.
That's my three.
Okay. I am going to go for pole sitter, Max Verstappen. I think he's going to want to take this into... He's going to want to go into Styrian Grand Prix and be like, you know what? I messed up in Baku. I've got something.
Well, it wasn't his fault in Baku because the tyres failed.
Yeah. I crashed in Baku. I just won the French GP and I want to keep this momentum going, especially with my title rival behind me as well. So I'm going Max Verstappen as a pole sitter for the Styrian Grand Prix. In fact, I'm going to go double it.
As well.
Race winner as well. Another 25 laps. Sorry, 25 points. Yeah, 25 points. And driver of the day, as you said, it is a lottery. If I look back at the past driver of the days this season, Vettel's got at least 2. Sergio Perez has 1 as well. And a few other drivers, I'm not sure. So I'm going to go with, it's a fairly short track. I'm going to go with Lando Norris in McLaren.
That is a very good... He had 2 good races last year as well.
I'm going to go with Lando Norris in the McLaren.
Podium in the opening race last year. And what did he get? Was it a 4th or a 5th when he had just that flyer of a last lap Lando it was?
Yeah.
In Austria last year. So I reckon that's a good shout.
Yeah.
Especially given how well McLaren have been doing.
Yeah.
They've got the most points in the opening 7 races since they switched to Honda engines and are now back with Mercedes engines. Well, since the team went orange, basically, they've got the most points in the opening 7 races. They've got, 110 points?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, another 20 or 30 up from last year. So they're just on the up and up. And yeah, I think Norris and Ricard, I'm sort of segueing this onto our next talking point.
Yep.
But,
so
just another solid outing from McLaren.
Yep. So pole sitter, Max Verstappen, race winner, Max Verstappen, driver of the day, Lando Norris. And then just to mention briefly, Aston Martin got both cars in the points.
Double points. 9th and 10th, so only 3 points, but always good to have a double points finish.
Yep. For the first time this season. So
another just on Aston Martin. I can't remember when it was in the Grand Prix, but I was watching the highlights back on Channel 4 on Sunday, and I can't remember if it was an overtake or it was a replay, but you know, in Monaco where we had Vettel going around the outside
Gasly?
of Beau Rivage, yeah,
Oh
going around
yeah,
the outside of Gasly, and then
yeah.
the TV director cuts to Lance Stroll bumping over some curbs,
Oh
and
yeah.
just bring up the Stroll graphic on the TV.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That happened in Paul-Ricard. I was just like, oh no, what's going to happen here? Just a bit of PTSD of the Stroll graphic coming up. Just like, oh no, what are we
Oh,
missing? Please don't miss
oh,
anything out.
Lance Stroll.
And you know what? I can't actually remember what happened now. So yeah, I just thought that was. I just saw the Stroll graphic and thought, oh no, what's going on? What's going on? What are we missing? Um,
Oh no, what's happened? As Crofty would say. But yes, now the Styrian Grand Prix. I mean, what a race it was last year in 2020. The first race of, you know, in the midst of the pandemic, F1 got racing up and going again, and Hamilton Hamilton won the race in that opening race, and he got qualifying as well. And well, the top three actually, one question.
yeah.
The Styrian Grand Prix. What How do you think the podium will look like? Who's going to finish in the top three?
Well, I said Hamilton is race winner, so I think he'll be one. And if it's not Hamilton on the top step of the podium, it will be Verstappen. So I'm going to go Verstappen second. And tough. Is it going to be one of the top two teams, or is a Ferrari going to sneak in there, like we saw with Leclerc in the first race of last year, or is it going to be McLaren? I don't. I'm going to go Perez. I'm going to play it safe and go
Perez.
Perez in
Okay.
third. Yep, Hamver for my podium.
So I think my podium's going to be Hamilton. No, sorry, Verstappen,
Verstappen.
Hamilton for second place, and then third place. Well, I'll tell you now, it's not going to be Bottas. I don't think Bottas will get
No,
a
I don't
podium.
think Bottas either.
You know what? I'm gonna go Lando Norris. I'm gonna go Lando
Yeah, I
Norris.
reckon if he gets a podium, he should get driver of the day.
Yeah,
One day.
Lando Norris. So back to previewing Styrian GP. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton won the Styrian GP, and it was I mean, it's quite a fast track as well. Sorry, Sebastian Vettel at the time was driving for Ferrari, and he crashed out. He retired. How would you, when he was in his Ferrari days, how would you sum up his relationship with Charles Leclerc?
Um,
Because they had a few run-ins
yeah,
on tracks in previous races, you know, coming together.
they did, but I'd say they had a decent working relationship. Those two. I think the trouble was more Vettel's relationship with Ferrari and the Ferrari management. I think they had a big falling out, which obviously didn't help Ferrari at all last year. They came what sixth last year. They were dreadful. I mean, Ferrari, their car hasn't improved that much really from last year. I mean, Leclerc's just outdriven it a few times, and Carlos Sainz is perhaps still getting used to it a little bit. Obviously, both cars finished outside the points in France, which is quite a big step down from where they were the week before, with
Yeah,
Leclerc finishing what fourth, fifth, and
fourth.
Leclerc getting pole as well in the last two races, well in Azerbaijan and in Monaco. And I mean, I think Ferrari, they've got a good driver. I mean, Leclerc and Sainz, two outstanding drivers. I think it's just the car that's letting them down because
Mm.
they're doing better than last year, but they're still struggling. I mean, as I said, they didn't get points last weekend when McLaren got double points, Aston Martin got double points. Um, Gasly is just completely outdriving the AlphaTauri. I think they've got a good car, AlphaTauri.
Yeah,
Alonso eighth in the Alpine. And it's just how can a team like Ferrari not battle the likes of typical midfield teams or teams that have been in the midfield for the last few years? Ferrari's been at the top, and now they're suddenly finding themselves in the midfield, and to be honest, at the bottom end of the midfield. at that.
Because they should be there with McLaren, like
Absolutely, yeah,
constantly.
they should be, but they're just not. So something's going wrong in Ferrari, and I mean, this year they're not obviously weren't allowed to make too many changes to the car for cost saving purposes. So I think next year we should see Ferrari. Well, hopefully, as a fan of Formula One, I haven't been the greatest fan of Ferrari, but if you're getting into Formula One, or the history of Formula One, you know just how prestigious a team like Ferrari is. You always want to see them come at the top end of the points in the constructors or whatever. It's just sad to see them not get any points in France, just not winning races anymore. So fingers crossed, as a neutral, as an F1 fan, that Ferrari can get back to business next year.
Yeah, yeah, and well, there's nothing more to say than
Not a lot.
not a lot, no. But the second of the triple header race, we are in Styria this weekend, I think. Yeah, this
Yep, this
weekend,
coming weekend,
which
in the same track but different name the week after.
yeah, I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is. Why it's
Well, I don't
Styria
know.
this
Because I
weekend,
mean,
and
well,
then
take Italy for example. We've got last year we had a Grand Prix of Monza, we had a Grand Prix of Mugello, we had a Grand Prix in Imola. They
oh
all
yeah,
just all had different names. Italian Grand Prix number 1, Italian Grand Prix number 2, Italian Grand Prix number 3. I mean, it's still the Austrian Grand Prix. It's the same track. It's just a different name. It doesn't really make much difference, I suppose. It's just just a different name. It doesn't make any.
yeah,
I don't think the drivers will be going like, right, how do we approach the Styrian Grand Prix different to the Austrian Grand Prix? You don't. It's the same track. It's the same layout.
just different name.
Just different name. Just keep it the same.
Yeah. So I believe we've come to the end. We've come to the end. So well, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the AfterBurners podcast, episode 16. It's a goodbye from me, Samuel Oni, and it's goodbye from Wes.
Bye bye.
And enjoy the Styrian race this weekend, and hopefully, we will see some good racing. And
Hopefully.
and yeah, goodbye and take care.
Take care.